welcome to your reading. So this is going to be your geoscope for the upcoming lunar eclipse in Capricorn, which happens on the 5th of July 2020. So let's get into reading. I've had a little piece of quartz, just clearing the energies. And it is interesting. Mercury is definitely retrograde. I've had to restart your reading because I'm having quite a bit of trouble with my camera. So if you do see you know, sometimes what look like different cuts or you know, things like that, it's probably because I've had to restart a reading and pick up where I left off. But anyway, I'm starting from scratch. So let's see what the lunar eclipse is asking you to release or to kind of get clear about. What is coming to culmination or fruition for our lovely Sagittarius? And don't forget too that I have done some video forecasts that are astrology based on my website for this upcoming 6 months solar lunar phase that began at the 21st of June with the solar eclipse in Cancer. So if you haven't watched those, then do go to my website and go to the members section. And if you're not a member, then subscribe, because it's free and it just means you get access to some of the stuff that ordinary folk don't. Right, I think that's shuffled quite nicely. Let's cut the cards and see what's happening. Right, so okay, interesting. So this is kind of your intention, or where you're kind of at when we get to the lunar eclipse in Capricorn. So this is Puer. Now Puer is Mars in its domicile of Aries, and this is very focused, forward moving energy. It's very enthusiastic. There's often a certain boldness or confidence behind it. This is beginner's luck. And it's interesting because Mars has actually just moved into the sign of Aries. It did so on the 28th of June after quite a long time in Pisces. So I think you're kind of feeling that energy as we come to the eclipse. It's only a couple of days before the eclipse. And I think, you know, being a fire sign, you've probably enjoyed the injection of extra kind of get up and go. You probably feel as though you've got your mojo back, particularly when it comes to physical energy and, you know, enthusiasm, that kind of rearing to go energy. Interesting. Okay, so I think Capricorn actually got this, or could be Capricorn or Taurus, one of the two. So if you've got Capricorn or Taurus rising, maybe just check out the geoscopes that I did for them. So this is Acquisitio. So this is your planet and sign. This is Jupiter in Sagittarius, and we got it in your 4th house, which is the house of roots, foundations, as well as you know, home and the past. So on some level, you're feeling quite abundant, and you're working on kind of expanding your kind of, not your power base, but your kind of foundation in life, perhaps with a view to sort of growing upwards and outwards. So this is the, you know, the root of the tree, and the midheaven is kind of up there. So you are really working on nourishing yourself, on self-care, perhaps also on expanding your family. Possibly you're thinking about you know, either joining forces with somebody else who may have children, or perhaps you're thinking about having children if you're kind of coupled up. But there's definitely a sense of gain. This could also be inheriting a property. It could be buying a property. But this is very much sort of a really positive, expansive geomantic figure. Interesting. So in your 7th house, we've got Populus. Now this is the moon in Cancer, and of course this particular lunar eclipse is very Cancerian by nature. However, it will be the sun that will be in Cancer and not the moon. The moon will be in the opposite sign of Capricorn. So interesting energy. Populus here is really about sort of folk wisdom, kind of the you know, the kind of commonly held or traditional way of doing things. It's communing with others in crowds usually, but we've got it in the 7th house, which is the house of partnerships, and this is usually one-to-one relationships. So perhaps you have some kind of quandary when it comes to committed relationships or business partnerships, And the geomantic figure here is telling you to kind of go with conventional wisdom. Don't feel you have to be too out there or different or think too much outside of the box. There's no need to reinvent the wheel when it comes to long-term relationships. Interesting. So you've got your base in your 10th house. This is the house of goals, your future direction of travel, your aspirations, where you'd like to be headed. So it's often to do with career. But in this case, I'm thinking that it's more that you are aligning yourself with your passion so that you can generate abundance in a way that isn't necessarily about outward striving per se, but more as a kind of a type of manifesting. So setting your intentions, being very clear about what it is that you enjoy, expressing yourself in a very joyful and enthusiastic way, and then that becomes sort of magnetic, and you kind of draw in this abundant energy. But anyway, I'm going to pause it there while I do the rest of the geomantic conversions, and I'll be back in a second to find out, what's going on in more detail. Hi Sag, welcome back. As you can see, I've done all the conversions and I have put all the geomantic figures in their respective houses. So let's dive into this further and find out what's going on at this particular solar eclipse. So for you, lunar eclipse. So this lunar eclipse is going to happen when the sun and the moon are on the opposite sides of the earth, because this is full moon. So for you, that means that the moon is going to be in Capricorn, which is your second house of income, as well as values and resources. And then the sun is going to be on the opposite side in the 8th house in Cancer. Mercury is also going to be there. And we've also got Jupiter, your ruling planet, with Pluto in Capricorn at the time of the eclipse. Now, they are going to be making a very important and powerful conjunction to each other in the sign of Capricorn just before the eclipse, so on the 30th of June, again, depending on where you are in the world. And this is the second go of the 444 energy that we had back in April. So, but this time the energy is in sort of internal. So this is really about kind of major internal resets, if you like. So that energy is going to be carried into this eclipse. And so it really is about a kind of a catharsis or a reset or a purging, because we've got Pluto in the mix, and Jupiter tends to sort of amplify. So I think we need to see this as being a sort of a major internal shift that's happening that requires us to let go of what is no longer serving us, so that we can really welcome in the energy that kind of got underway at the solar eclipse in Cancer. So for you, this seems to be about getting your happiness, about being happy, because we've got Laitisha in your second house. So it's interesting that we've got the moon here too, and the moon is all about emotions. So for you, I think perhaps there's a degree of, leaving behind whatever is being weighing you down emotionally, and kind of getting your happiness back, which is interesting, given that we've got this acquisitio in your 4th house of family, which, resonates with Cancer. It's sort of at the natural house of Cancer. So you definitely seem to be focused on getting your happy back. And we've also got Laitisha repeated in your 3rd house, which is about your kind of mental outlook, the way you express yourself, your mentality. So I do think that this is very much about kind of getting your mojo back, your joy, all of those good things. And so on the other side, we've got the sun in Cancer, which is going to be traveling close to Mercury, but not exact. Mercury will be retrograde, so there will be an element of looking back at this particular full moon eclipse, and perhaps, looking back and shedding things from the past. Now, the 8th house has to do with resources that we share. So these can be physical resources such as money, assets, property. It can be bank loans, that type of thing. But it can also be the more ethereal and ephemeral types of resources, such as trust, intimacy, our energy. So it can be an area where boundaries are important, either because of a tendency to overgive, for example, or because of a tendency to not to trust enough, and so not to let people in, because this is very much the border between us and other people, significant relationships. And it's interesting that we've got Populus repeated in your 7th house. So there definitely seems to be a link here in terms of the solar energy to significant relationships, or perhaps what you want from a significant relationship. So yes, I think, you know, it's interesting that we've got this lunar energy here. This is Cancer energy, and it may be pointing to possibly that you've pivoted in your kind of family, in your beliefs about family, because we've got a Quasitio in your 9th house and we've got a Quasitio in your 4th house. So it's possible that what's happening is that your relationships to others are shifting because you've pivoted in terms of your internal beliefs, which you have inherited from family. And if those, you know, if those were kind of holding you back when it comes to sort of long-term committed relationships and business partnerships, then perhaps you know, you are kind of pivoting, your beliefs are shifting, and that is allowing you to have a very different relationship to other people, you know, when it comes to you know, committed partnerships, marriages, and so forth. But of course, a lot will depend on where you have you know, where planets are kind of placed in your chart. And so I think it's important to say that when I'm reading this chart, I'm reading it as if Sagittarius was rising. In other words, as if Sagittarius was the ascendant. So if you are not Sagittarius rising, I do suggest you go and watch the video for whatever your ascendant is, because that will give you often more detailed and accurate information about, you know, the areas of life affected by, you know, whatever the planets are kind of doing. But just on the face of it here, we do seem to be, as I say, there's this strong emphasis on the moon and on lunar energy, which of course is also about unconscious beliefs and kind of habits. So it does look as if you are making happiness and joy a habit, and that is then going to be eventually becoming a belief, and then of course that manifests in our external reality, which is why we've got Acquisitio as our outcome as well as in the 4th house. So it does seem as though you're very focused on family. You know, this is Cancer energy, which is all about home, family, self-care, self-nourishment, all those good things. And that resonates, of course, with the theme of Laetitia. Now, the other interesting thing here is that Laetitia is ruled by Jupiter in Pisces. So this is again your ruling planet, but it's in the water sign of Pisces. So we've got Jupiter in Sagittarius here and here, and then we've got Jupiter in Pisces in the 2nd and the 3rd houses. So lots of your energy here, Sag, which I think is always very confirming. It kind of shows that you're on the right track and that you really are you know, headed, your intentions are kind of in alignment with your you know, your truth and that kind of thing. So yes, as I say, balance between yourself and your own resources and then what you share with others, that's going to be the key theme. It's also worth remembering that the solar eclipse would have happened in this house, so there is definitely a new cycle for you starting here, and it may have something to do with a new way of kind of giving and receiving. So maybe more balanced kind of giving and receiving, so that you don't drain yourself, and so you're able to, you have enough energy in order to sort of generate your own sense of well-being. So that's probably what, you know, what this is about. It's also worth saying that the moon will be making a trine to Uranus, and that will be in Taurus. So for you, Sag, that is, let me see, that's Cancer, so Gemini, Taurus. So 6th house, which is health, well-being, everyday rituals, as well as work colleagues, and pets. And it's interesting that we've got the same geomantic figure in your work house as we do in your career house. So that tells me that you really are wanting to make changes internally that allow you to pursue your passion when it comes to work and, you know, your kind of your everyday life, so that you want to, it's almost like you're sloughing away anything that feels like slog when it comes to work. You don't want drama with colleagues or with people, clients, for example. You're very keen to get very focused and clear about what you feel passionate about, and to make that kind of the major part of what you do every day, and what you do for a living. So that's quite interesting. And then we've also got a couple of repetitions going on here that I think we need to draw our attention to. So you've got poor in your first house. It's repeated in your fifth house. So that tells me that part of what you're feeling motivated about and want to sort of progress with has to do with fifth house matters. Now, this is children, creativity, it's new relationships, it's holidays, hobbies, that kind of thing. It's basically anything that brings us joy and is associated with passion. So interesting that we've got Mars here in your 6th and your 10th house. That's sort of emphasizing this desire to pursue your passion. So this could well be the drive to be creative. It could also be the desire to have children, which is why we've got a Quisitio here. Maybe you want to expand your family. You may be keen on pursuing a relationship that's going to have kind of long-term legs, and that may also be why we've got populace here being emphasized as being part of the solar sort of part of this eclipse. Or it could be that you want to turn something that's creative into what you do for a living. But certainly a lot of your energy, I think, in terms of your intentions, is focused here in your fifth house. Then the other geomantic figure that is repeated is Fortuna Minor, which is also one of your outcome cards. So let's have a look at that quickly. So Fortuna Minor is in your 11th and 12th houses. These are public houses. They're social houses. So this is the house of psychology, or your kind of internal state of mind. And this is the 11th house of friends, social circle, social network, as well as shared, like fellowship, where you share ideals or goals with a group of people. So it does look as though if you are in need of support to sort of realize your passion, to expand in any shape, form, or capacity, you can get the support that you need from friends, through social media, and also from I think in your internal kind of like your parent, almost your internalized parent, which is interesting because it's kind of echoing this idea of your internal resources. So I think it's kind of saying that in order to if we kind of look at this in terms of the outcome, in order to expand and to gain and to become very abundant, you do need the help and support of others. And this may require overcoming certain obstacles or blocks. And I think that those obstacles and blocks, because this is Saturn in Capricorn, may have to do with balancing out give and take when it comes to others, particularly, kind of committed partnerships, long-term partnerships. And then learning to sort of generate internally your own ability to be joyful and to kind of it's almost your regulating your state of mind and your emotions so that you are able to be happy despite whatever is happening outside, despite perhaps not being able to speak to a friend, just becoming the source of your own internal happiness. So yes, I think quite a strong reading, Sag. And it's interesting that we've got Acquisitio again as one of your outcome cards. I think you also had this for the lunar eclipse in Sagittarius, so there may be some overlaps here, and this is Jupiter in Sagittarius. So you might want to sort of think back to then, because there may be a couple of themes that have now progressed on, given that Mars has now changed signs since then, and Mars did factor quite strongly into that particular full moon lunar eclipse. So it's possible that now that Mars has shifted signs, you're able to kind of make progress where before you may have been blocked, or there may have been, the energies just weren't quite in alignment with your fire energy to allow things to sort of take off or flow, when it comes to external circumstances. But as I say, do consider that this is a 2-week cycle, so it lasts from the full moon through the waning moon cycle to the following new moon. Sometimes it lasts as long as the lunar months, from one moon phase to another, so from one full moon to another. But generally speaking, it's a 2-week cycle, and it's about release. Whereas the solar eclipse is about starting something new that will take us through until sort of November, December. But I kind of see this almost as laying the groundwork for you, and that you're really going to kind of come into your own when we move strongly into those solar and lunar eclipses in the axis of Gemini and Sagittarius. So something to look forward to. But still, this looks really positive, fabulous outcome. Just going to read you the keywords for that so that you can use it to set your intentions. So we're talking about material success, profit, riches, gain, attainable goals, expansion, and absorption. So this is a mouth or a pouch held open, ready to take something in. So you're really kind of attracting, you're becoming magnetic, and part of that is sort of getting happy. It's feeling motivated, enthusiastic. It's aligning with your passion and your purpose. So aligning passion and purpose, and in aligning your beliefs, with your emotions, and also with your actions, so that everything kind of moves in the same direction. And then also being able to ask for support, having that network, when you need it. And that may also be what Populous here is about. It's about a support network, not just feeling that you have to get all your support from your spouse or whatever. It's possible that you're realizing that they can't be all things to all people, and that you do have a group of other people that you can sort of turn to get support in different areas of your life. But anyway, I think that's a really positive reading. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have and it's resonated, please leave a comment or hit the like button. If you're enjoying these geoscopes, then do subscribe so that you don't miss out on any future geoscopes I do for the upcoming lunar phases. But I'm wishing you all the best, and I'll catch you in a couple of weeks.